to another episode of The Human Blueprint, and in this episode we're answering questions that we received on Instagram, Facebook, through email. I'm really wanting to see what you guys want to hear about, what questions you guys have, and what things that you're going through and want to learn about. So we'll start with our questions from Instagram, and the very first one is, what are emotions?
Okay. How do we put this into a concise form? We have to give a point of reference. So when you hear of emotions or you see someone with emotions, how does that make you feel? What goes through your head? What goes through inside of you?
When I see somebody that has...
When someone else is going through it, not you, when you see someone else.
It depends, I guess, because emotions come in many different
Mm-hmm.
shapes, sizes, and forms.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it depends on the situation, because I'm empathetic in certain situations, but then in others, it's just, I kind of just avoid it or
Mm-hmm.
don't really want to go near the emotions.
So emotions are when we're not in control.
Yes.
Period. Every time you have an emotional outburst, outbreak, trigger, whatever it may be, because we're not in control. So what are emotions? When you're not in control, period. A lot of people think they can be emotional, do whatever they want, act however they want, say whatever they want, and that they're in control. Not true. Because when you're in that state, just because someone doesn't say something to you or call you out on that moment, or just because you got away with it once, then you keep doing it, and doing it. So when you're young and you kept getting away with every little thing, then when you get older and all of a sudden when someone tries to be real with you or be honest with you and you can't take it, you get even more emotional, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you go through the whole hamster wheel of emotions. So we have to make sure we're always in control of every moment, because if not, and those emotions consume us, that's when we're not efficient. And if we're not efficient, then how are we being the best versions of ourselves?
So how can somebody gain that control?
Well, you have to first be honest with yourself to identify it. A lot of people who have anger don't even know they have it. A lot of people who have depression don't even know they have it. A lot of people who have hate, greed, all these different things, they live with it for most of their life. They don't even know they have it. And so when someone asks me now to help them, and I say, okay, can I be honest? And I tell them what they have, then all of a sudden the emotions come out, because it's being drawn out because they've suppressed it for so long. They've created a whole house, space, everything inside just for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we address it so that they no longer need to have it, it's like, it's a very freeing experience. And so for a lot of people, they never really had control of their life. And if they don't have control of their life, they allow all the uncontrollable variables to harm them. And then when they focus on all those uncontrollable variables, no more control again, no more focus. Life passes you by. What do we have to speak of? What legacy did we leave? What impact did we make on the world? Just from the emotions. It can rob you of everything.
Right. Yeah, I'm even thinking about myself, and you talked about anger, and I know that's something that, I have had and still working on, I would say, but it took me a very long time to admit that, or to actually talk about it.
And that's what I mean, because you've had it. When you finally realize you have it, you don't want to address it, you don't want to change it, you think it's good because, you're not dead yet. So as long as you're not dead yet, you can still keep it. But you don't realize every time you keep reigniting that negative emotion that's very detrimental to your health, then it's like you diminish health, diminish the joy, diminish happiness, diminish those that love you, care for you, diminish. And then what do we have left to speak of?
Nothing.
Because it drives everyone away,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we have to be careful of that, because that drama or being over dramatic, we have to ensure it doesn't harm others, and we have to ensure it doesn't harm inside.
So when we talk about emotions, when a person feels the emotions, do they generally feel it in their head or in their heart, in their body? Or is it different for everybody?
So different people interpret things differently. It is the interpretation of the perception that causes the reaction. Let's say someone spoke a different language. They smiled to your face. They spoke really kind. But here they were saying all these bad things to you in their language. You wouldn't know any different.
No.
But if they put negativity behind it and they yelled at you and they tried to be forceful, they got in your space, all of a sudden you realize that's something negative. Then you interpret that to be negative. But maybe that's just who they are, being Italian.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe they're actually being nice to you, but you just didn't understand the Italian. So it's just understanding the perception of what situation it is and seeing it for the truth. Don't put your emotion and say, well, he said this or she said that. And they never said that. Words are always being used to be twisted, to interpret, to hear what you want to hear, to see what you want to see, feel how you want to feel. Do you know what I mean? And people leave their house every single day. How am I going to feed this emotion today? How am I going to feed that today? How am I going to feed? This needs a feed in tomorrow. I didn't get this week. And it's like they're always looking to feed it. And then that drama becomes very, very toxic. And you know what feeds that drama?
Gossip.
Reality TV. Because that's made to use to sell for ratings. So then people think it's okay for them to have those same emotions. And so they're constantly bombarded with signals and signs that it's okay to be that way.
Right.
And then they're trying to fix it when it's too late and say, well, I want to press a button to fix it. Where's an app for that? It doesn't work that way. Because most people don't realize when an app is programmed, all the programming that goes in behind it is a lot of mess, ones and zeros. But you don't see that on the phone. What if on your phone was just all text, all script, all programming, and not just a flashy button that you just press?
People wouldn't use them as much because they're not pretty.
Use them, see? So that's why when we're going through the emotions, you have to get used to the unpretty, because that's where you've buried everything.
So you really have to extract the truth.
Only the truth. Always the truth.
And get rid of those emotions.
Those are the lies.
So let's dive into the next question. So how do you cut the cord with someone who is still affecting your life?
So for different people, that means different things. So for instance, cutting the cord, are you talking a friend? Are you talking a partner? Are you talking a business partner? Are you talking parents that share the same school you go to for the kids? Like, what does that pertain to? And so we have to understand the situation, each one individually. Now, in terms of cutting the cord, there is a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. The right way would possibly mean where, okay, once the person has shown their true colors, you distance yourself in a respectful manner. The wrong way, you have to go out with a bang. And have you ever seen someone when they over dramatize that, okay, let's say they won the lottery, the first thing they want to think about is how to over dramatize that they're going to leave the office, the 9 to 5? So they'll get balloons, they'll get doves, they'll throw a whole party, and then do everything to flash and show off that they're better than whoever else is there. Well, that's over dramatization. When we understand what's causing it, we have to make sure we don't continue to feed it. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Too many people in this day and age, far too many, allow themselves to be consumed by everything externally, and then the price you pay is everything internally. And if we're ever going to conquer ourselves, we have to make sure internally we're the strongest, and then externally becomes a byproduct.
Absolutely. So the next question is how to know what to focus on if you have multiple interests and all of them matter to you.
Well, that's very, very simple. It's like in sports or in business. You have to have your highest priority to lowest priority. In sports and in business, do you do all the easy things first?
No.
You do the hardest things first. That's called practice, right? Right? You don't just go straight into a game. You have to practice so that when you go into the game, you have the necessary time and experience from practice to apply the same things, but in the actual game when it counts.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't have that priority checklist, we're only fooling ourselves. So that's when you have to lay it out, where you have what you consider to be like the toughest tasks always first. And then you go down and you go down and you go down, because in Chinese we say sim fu hao ting, which means you have to have all the bitterness first so that you can make sure you understand what the sweetness tastes like.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody wants sweetness. No one wants an ounce of bitterness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the bitterness that creates the character, the experience, all the things you need, the tools you need, so you can enjoy the sweetness that much more.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how we help with the focus. Get your priorities in line.
Absolutely. So the next question, still going through Instagram, is what can we do to help ourselves hear our own intuition better?
Well, you have to drown out all distractions first off. TV, phone, radio, all the distractions, gossip, all of these different things that are not helping you grow internally. You have to starve every single distraction. A lot of people who have focus problems, they need the caffeine, they need the alcohol, they need the sugar, they need all these different things to fill what they feel they're lacking internally. And so for us, if we want focus, we have to so-called have like a cleansing. Mm-hmm. You have to get rid of everything in that routine and then pick and choose what is good, what is not good, what is helpful, what is not helpful, so that you can process like as if you're going through a security line. Did you pass this check? Did you pass that check? Did you pass this check? So that you know, okay, do I focus on this? Okay, it passed the first test, but it didn't pass the second.
Mm-hmm.
It passed the second, didn't pass the third. It passed all three. Okay, that's great. But was that only the sweet things?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we have to make sure, like, when we're processing what we want to focus on, you have to be real with yourself. Is that something that is worth your time, your experience, your effort? Because a lot of people focus on a lot of negative things.
Mm-hmm.
Take the phone, for example. They focus on social media all day. Swipe, 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 mm-hmm. right? Apps all day. Swipe, swipe, swipe. Are you getting any smarter? Are you becoming any better? Are you developing any necessary tools for the future?
No.
But yet we spend all day wasting on it.
Mm-hmm.
But yet you would think if you focus on that because you saw someone else have expensive this, expensive that, you saw they flashed it, by you seeing that all day on this, maybe you think that you're going to have that.
Mm-hmm.
You'll only lie to yourself, because if you don't put in the necessary tools in place with the system, if you don't put that plan in place, and without the action, you'll just be dreaming all day.
Right. So once you get to that point where you've eliminated some of those distractions,
mm-hmm.
and you've, I guess, processed or have a better security system for
mm-hmm.
what you're feeling or thinking, how can you tell if, you know, your intuition, if something is intuition or if it's emotion?
Most people have never felt intuition before. They don't even know what instinct is. Why? Because their entire life was to root it out of their system.
Mm-hmm.
You go through, let's say, the savannah, or let's say you go in Africa and you go through the animal kingdom. You go to any form of woods, any form of nature shot area, park. The number one thing those animals have? Instinct. They know when something is 100 miles away that doesn't belong here. That your little puppy knows when you got home before you even pulled in the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
Instinct, right? Why? Because they feed that focus. They don't know what a TV is. They don't know what iPhone is. They don't know what social media is,
mm-hmm.
right? But so they focus on one thing. Develop, evolve.
Mm-hmm.
But humans no longer want to evolve. They want to sit back and watch everyone else do something for them.
Mm-hmm.
So how are we ever supposed to develop those necessary skills that we were actually born with, but everything in life keeps distancing you from everything that you were given, those gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, when you get a little snippet of that gift, you say, oh, I listened to this, so I got this. Yes. Then they write a book and they try to tell everyone to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone's experience is different.
Right.
Some may be in a different part of the world. Some may have a different environment. Some may be more left brain. Some may be more right brain. Every individual is different. So that's why we have to be cautious what we put out to make sure we're involving as many people as possible, not trying to just sell a glorified story.
Mm-hmm. Which you see a lot of that today.
Too much.
Yeah. And I think this next question is a perfect segue. We got this one through our email, and they're asking about parenthood and trying to best raise your children this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about what you just talked about with humans losing their instinct. And ever
Mm-hmm.
since the day you were born, it was like being drawn out of you with all of the noise, everything that they put in your body. That's a whole different topic. But
Yes.
in terms of parenting and best practices for raising your children, what would you say?
First off, don't give them technology. Not yet. They have to earn every little ounce, every single second.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do have it, it's not for pleasure. It is only used for tools to learn more, gain more, evolve faster. Never used for something selfish. Never used for something that is very, I would say, non-productive. I see 3-year-olds know how to play a game on an iPad better than a 60-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, okay, they have hand-eye coordination, but then they're so used to getting everything easy, they no longer know what it means to work
Mm-hmm.
for it. How much did that cost? What did you have to do to buy that?
Mm-hmm.
What did you have to do to earn that? And that's why technology, too many people give their kids cell phones too early now.
Mm-hmm.
So then they're on social media all day, and then they get upset because so-and-so didn't tell them they were at so-and-so's party, and so-and-so posted this and must have stole that. They stole my outfit, and just all these silly little things from technology.
Mm-hmm.
But in the old days, it was interaction. It was genuine interaction. It's so hard for people now to have a simple conversation that they have to take a course on how to go get a job for the interview, because they no longer know how to speak to people. They no longer know how to write or express themselves. Everything's just type. So technology has separated a lot of that instinct, because then it thinks for us. We no longer think for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And that's dangerous.
Very dangerous. And that's how you become complacent. And once you become complacent, you become mediocre. And the whole thing in life is to not be mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
Because then if that's the case, then life will never really live up to your expectations. You'll only just go through it with eyes closed. You'll never fully experience it with eyes open. And so when people ask, how do I do what I do? It's because I don't allow anything to get in the way of myself evolving.
So, no technology. Is there something that you would recommend for them to do?
Of course. You know what puzzles are, right?
Yeah.
I say that is a very good start, because it is where you take something that needs to be built. So thought goes straight into action. That is number one builder that they need to learn. That they see a problem, they solve it.
Mm-hmm.
See a problem, solve it. But now when you ask a kid or anybody that is in school, here's a problem. Oh, go ask so-and-so, they may know. And they point fingers, and they never take accountability. Nobody wants to answer the tough questions. Nobody wants to listen to the tough answers.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, when they do hit, it's too much. A lot of people can't handle it. And that's why we have to be careful that when we're developing children, you have to make them learn what it's like to hear no. You have to make them learn that they build thick skin, so that when things that they can't get, things that don't go their way, things that is not as pleasant or as easy, that they don't just sit there and cry. They sit there and figure it out how to do something better so that they get a better outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you pick one puzzle piece of 1,000, it didn't fit in the one spot. You're going to just be upset because the one piece that you chose and the other 999, like you have to go through that?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it that you say, let's have a system. Let's look at the color. Is it in the corner or is it in the center? Are we boxing it in first and then go from there, from the corner in? Like you have to have a system.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just sit there and look at the box and maybe this one? No. Maybe this one? No. Then you're not solving any problems.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not solving problems, then we put them out in society to go have a job, have a family. So then if they don't know how to problem solve, then they choose the wrong career, wrong job, choose the wrong partner in business, choose the wrong partner in personal life, and it just becomes messy and messy and messy, layers and layers and layers. And who suffers most?
Them and the people around them, possibly the parents.
Everyone suffers because we were no longer accountable. Because once you hear the truth, you have to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Ignorance is when you know the truth and you turn your back against it.
Right.
And too many people are ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's developed from the upbringing because not enough problems were solved.
Right. That makes sense.
Right?
And it's something tangible.
Very tangible, right? Do the puzzle, right? Go out in nature and exercise. Go out and understand where your food comes from. Go out and understand how your water's clean. Like go see the things that you use and really understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
Because so many people take these simple things for granted. And they'll just say, yeah, I'll just press a button. I'll turn a tap. I'll just go buy that. Really?
Mm-hmm.
So you think it's that easy? You don't see the whole process? Well, we're going into a different part of the world now where that will be challenged.
Just the basic necessities of
correct. Yeah. And if you ever vacation somewhere, all the places you think that are the most exotic and most beautiful vacation, look at their economy. Look at what those people struggle with. Look at how they live their life. Look at how they problem solve. Look at how they've evolved and developed certain skills.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
This makes me want to go learn how to live off the grid and learn all those things that you just take for granted every day. Because I feel like if you don't understand the process, then that really feeds the entitlement.
And that becomes ignorance because you just feel that you deserve it just for living, just
Mm-hmm.
for being here. Everything must be earned.
Right.
Everything.
So we'll finish on this question that we got from Facebook. And this question is, how can I deal with negative people I have to deal with to some extent, whether it be colleagues or siblings? And then also, how do I help them transform that negative vibration into a positive vibration that benefits us all?
Yeah, so a lot of people have to understand, and this is just being completely honest on this podcast. When people say, how do I deal with negative people? Well, first off, you just labeled someone to be negative. Is it that what they say is negative? Is it how they do something negative? Or is it that just being around them, you feel negative? Because so many people like to throw labels at others,
Mm-hmm.
accuse others of things. Where's the accountability to say maybe we're negative ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're like that because they're reacting from what we did. Maybe they're like that because of all the people or the things they have to put up with, because maybe we're like all the other people causing headaches. Does that mean maybe that person is negative? Or does that mean they're trying to right the ship and do what it takes to survive? Doing what it takes to make sure the company keeps going. Do what it takes to make sure that everything is as status quo. But when I hear people say too many things about these negative people, we have to just be a little cautious how we just throw labels out at other people, because I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And to build upon that, when we are dealing with negative people, it is not people themselves that are necessarily negative. It's the situation and how they did not know how to handle it became negative. Think about that. When we came into this world, did we just come in and say, oh, are you a positive or are you negative? You're negative? You go over there.
Right.
Because if that was the case, no one would be in the positive side, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the situation and how you handle it that makes you or people view you to be quote unquote negative. But if we handle those situations better and we lead by example and we show that we can do it, then others will learn to trust and follow so that they no longer handle those situations in a negative capacity. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. That's why I don't like throwing labels at negative people, because it's not necessarily that they're negative, it's how they handle the situation. Mm-hmm. That's why the problem solving is so important.
Right.
If you don't problem solve, then the negative person will say, oh, why does this always happen to me? Why this? Why me? And poor me. And you just look at all the negative things that they would say, and you just have to be very careful, because that situation, how you handled it, trickles into all the other areas of your life. Mm-hmm. Without you ever realizing it. And we have to make sure we handle the situation in the right way, problem solve it the right way, so we have a positive outcome.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Well, do you have any closing thoughts in regards to anything we talked about on this episode?
I mean, if they have more questions, feel free to email, message us. We enjoy these.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we hope that this brought you value. So thank you for tuning in. If you do have more questions, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube. You can email us, and all those links can be found in the show notes. So thanks again, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.